Today, I want to talk about that conversation that you have been avoiding for a very long time, and you don't want to admit it deep down inside. You avoiding this conversation is actually costing you. It is costing you more than you think, and you know it, but for some reason, you refuse to have that conversation. That's what I want to talk about today because I want you to know that you are not the only person who's avoided a conversation that really needs to have it. See, I grew up in a military household. And so in a military household, you follow the chain of command. So you do what you're told. You don't buck back on leadership. You don't rock the boat. You don't ask questions. You don't say the things that you really want to say because you think that that's going to make things worse by bucking back at leadership. So you choose to keep the peace. But I have learned over the years that by you choosing to keep the peace, you're costing yourself a lot. You're costing yourself trust. You're costing yourself credibility. You're costing yourself success towards the outcome that you know you need to be achieving. See, this is not something that I'm making up out of my head. This is something that I've actually lived. See, when I was working for the President of the United States, we were working on the Affordable Care Act. It was one of the most important domestic pieces of public policy that our nation had seen in 50 plus years. Some might even say, from a healthcare standpoint, the biggest that we had seen in nearly 100 years. And so there's a lot that was on the line, a lot at stake, a lot of people involved. Today, 50 million people are benefiting from the ACA. So it had monumental, long-term, lasting impact. And some of us thought things were going well, but then I didn't think things were going well at all. See, there were several members of the team that I didn't trust. I didn't trust because of the things that they said. I didn't trust because they did not have the firsthand knowledge that I had about how healthcare was playing out on the ground. But because they were members of the team, and some of them more senior than me, I decided to bite my tongue. I decided to keep the peace. That who am I to buck leadership? Well, I was in the room. I had a title. I had the opportunity to speak up, but I chose to stay silent. I chose to be quiet because it was risky to say something, because I didn't want to be the countercultural guy, the guy who says the opposite of what everybody else is thinking. That this train had already been on the track and running down a direction, and it was getting faster and faster and faster. And I felt like if I was to say something now, people would not see me as a part of the solution. They would see me as part of the problem. That was this fear that I didn't want to be the bad guy. I didn't want to be labeled. I didn't want to be ostracized. And more importantly, I didn't want to be kicked out of the room. See, there was some privilege and some excitement about being able to say that I'm in the room in the White House where it happens. That was how I felt many days, that I'm just so lucky to be into the room. I'm lucky to be around this conversation. I'm lucky to be here at this history-making time. That the title was what I was so happy to get, that it put me in the room. So I avoided the conversation. But as I'm talking to you today, that I knew that I was making a mistake. And I'm telling you, you are making a mistake by avoiding the conversation. And literally, my avoiding that conversation nearly cost us everything on the ACA. It nearly cost me my credibility. It cost us the process. It cost us good outcomes. And more importantly, it almost did unprecedented amounts of reputational damage that we're still struggling to come back from today. As a matter of fact, those who are enemies of improving our healthcare system are still talking about it because we made an unforced error that I could have done something about if I was willing to have the conversation. And so I'm telling you today that I understand why you don't want to have the conversation. And here are the 3 reasons why you don't want to have the conversation. Because avoiding the conversation feels safe. See, you just want to be a peacemaker. What does a good book say? Blessed are the peacemakers. And you want to keep the peace. It feels safe to not say anything. That it's risky to open your mouth. But let me tell you what's more risky than you opening your mouth is you eroding the credibility with your team. That's right. I'm talking about the team that reports to you. See, my team also knew that something needed to be said, but they weren't allowed in the room. I was in the room. And so whenever I came back from a meeting and they were wondering, Anton, did you say the thing that nobody's willing to say? And I didn't say it. I was losing credibility with my team. I was losing credibility with my team. See, by me being silent, you know what I was saying? Silence is not avoidance or it's not safe. Silence is consent. Silence is endorsement of what is going wrong. And so every day that I didn't say anything, the more I was endorsing the train staying on the wrong track. Because avoidance feels safe, but it was costing me credibility. It was costing me my independence. The second thing you get out of avoiding the conversation is that you get to stay in the room. See, you think that by being in the room, by being in position, that somehow that benefits you. No. You don't have any influence just by being in a room. See, influence comes from courage. It's not about being in position. And so the main point of the takeaway is that you got to demonstrate some courage. See, you think you're being influential just because you're in a room. You get to say a few things or the attaboy things or I agree with her or I agree with him because you're in the room. I'm telling you right now, that's a huge mistake. See, if you want true influence, if you want real influence, if you want that influence that changes the trajectory of things and has the ability to increase your impact, your outcomes, your elevation, then you got to have some courage to say the thing that everybody is thinking, but nobody wants to say. You cannot use your position just to say I was in the room. You have to use your position to have more influence. And that requires you to have courage. Here's the third reason that I know that you need to do something. Because your silence in the room, your unwillingness to say the hard thing or to confront that conversation, to say it to the person that you need to say it to, it literally is eroding you before you even show up in the room. It is. See, you're losing trust. You're losing alignment. You're losing credibility. And guess what? The tension is building up every day. And the last thing you want is to let the tension build up until it blows over. Or not blows over, but it actually blows up. See, that was the situation that I was in. Every time I went to these meetings and I saw people who I didn't trust, who I didn't feel like had the president's back, instead of me saying something, I felt this tension building up inside of me, this anger building up inside of me this frustration building up inside of me. And it was eating away at me. It was costing me physically, emotionally, and mentally because I refused to say the thing. It was costing me before I even showed up. And then when it gets to a point that you can't take it no more, you're going to blow up. And when you blow up, you're going to act out of character. And when you act out of character, that's when people are going to question, do you even deserve to be in the room? And I'm here to tell you, I've been there. I've done that. I've been the person in the room that saw it so wrong for so long, but never said anything. And then it welled up in me. And the next thing you know, I was hulking out on people. That's right. The Incredible Hulk. And you know what happens when the Hulk out. When the Hulk out, the Hulk does nothing but smash. And you think you smashing the people in the room and you slamming them around like the Hulk did Loki in the Avengers movie? Nah. You know what you slamming around? You slamming around your credibility. You slamming around what people think about you. You're slamming around why they think you don't deserve to be in the room. Because you blew up. So you don't want to lose that trust. You don't want to lose that alignment. You don't want to lose that credibility. And you definitely don't want the tensions inside of you to blow up because you avoided the conversation for 9 months. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that guy. I was that guy. And people looked at me differently after I blew up. See, they also didn't get the message because I was so blown up about it, so upset about it, that they saw the behavior and didn't hear the message. So this is why you shouldn't avoid conversations, because over time, I know it feels safe. I know you want to be in the room and you want to have the title and be in position to say that you're in the room. But when you avoid them, it's going to cost you trust, alignment. That tension is going to build up and you might blow up. You don't want to be that person. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to do 3 simple things. 3 simple things to not avoid the conversation that you really need to have. The first thing you need to do is you need to name the situation. Now, when I say name the situation, I'm not saying you need to go make a speech about it, but I need you to write down right now, I need to have a conversation with blank about blank. As a matter of fact, there are probably multiple conversations that you've been avoiding in your organization. So maybe you should make a list of every person that you need to have a conversation with and what you need to have a conversation about. I need to have a conversation with blank about blank. Number 2, I need to have a conversation with blank about blank. I want you to name it, write it down, be clear, and be specific on what the conversation needs to be about. That's the first step to getting over avoiding this conversation that might cost you everything. The second thing that I need you to do is before you have that meeting, decide what the outcome is going to be. See, this ain't about winning an argument. This ain't about losing an argument. But this is about you deciding, is this really around you conveying what you understand the situation to be just to get it off your chest? Or are you sharing this because you want them to act differently? And if so, you need to state what you want them to do differently. Or is this conversation just for you to offer a different perspective that you needed a safe space to offer that perspective? I don't know what it is for you, but for me, I needed to offer a different perspective in one conversation. In the second conversation, I needed to say to someone very senior that I don't trust these people, that I don't feel like they have the president's best interests at heart, that they're trying to internally sabotage what we are doing. And I ended up saying it. I said it to someone who said, you know what? I agree with you, Anton, but I didn't know what to do about it or what to say about it because I felt like I was by myself. And there I was sitting there feeling like I was by myself. So here's what I'm laying out to you. That usually when everybody's thinking something and nobody wants to say it, that means everybody's thinking something and somebody needs to have the courage to say it. That needs to be you. So I need you to decide what the outcome is going to be when you decide to have the conversation. Is it just getting it off your chest? Do you want them to act differently? Or do you want, I don't know what you want, but you need to decide what the outcome is. You need to decide what the outcome is. Here's the final thing that I need you to do to stop avoiding this conversation that you know is costing you. You need to book it. When I say book it, send the calendar invite now. Send it today. Put it on the calendar. Go have the conversation. Do not overthink it. Don't rehearse it to death. That's not going to help you. It doesn't need to be a long conversation. You don't need to give a long backstory. You need to might give a little bit of context for your position, but land the plane. Land the plane. Have the conversation, put it on the calendar, get it done. Don't delay. Because the conversation that you're avoiding is costing you. It's costing you credibility. It's costing you trust. It's costing you clarity. And it might be physically costing you too. Because you want to keep the peace. You want to avoid the conversation. But by you avoiding it, you are silently endorsing the behaviors, the actions, and the outcomes that you really don't want. So that's my message for you today. Stop avoiding the conversation. Name the person and the thing that you need to talk about. Name it. Decide what your outcome is going to be. And thirdly, put the meeting on the calendar. Have the conversation and do it now. I want to thank you for watching Leadership Live this week. Yeah, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next week. Peace.